Welcome back to the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast. Today we have Master Renzo Gracie on the show, an absolute legend in BJJ and MMA, a guy that I've looked up to, been inspired from, and been a fan of my entire career since high school, watching him fight in Japan and Brazil and basically all over the world. And, he's one of the most positive people in the sport, and we've crossed paths so many times, but we've never sat down and had a long, extensive conversation, and I'm very much looking forward to this, and I think it's going to come out really good. So let's get started. All right, Master Renzo Gracie, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, my brother. It's great to see you, man.
It's an honor to be able to sit down and have a conversation with you. We've passed each other for short periods of time here and there, from here to Abu Dhabi to all over the world, but we've never had a good conversation, and I've never got to really kind of talk to you about how much of an inspiration you were to me in my career. So this is going to be really cool.
Oh, thank you, brother. Boy, it's true. We were always running, and you're always busy too, doing great fights, man. I always watch, and I'm a big fan. I always watch your fights and root for you every time,
Thank you so much.
It's good to be here with you, my brother.
That means a lot to hear you say that, because I was coming up through high school, and back in '97 I was like a junior, and I was watching your fights. And I remember the internet was so old back then that there was like these websites, these old-fashioned websites, and they would have like these dealers that had like all the MMA fights on VHS tape, and you could like trade tapes with them from like fights, or you could like buy the tapes from them. And I'd get these VHS tapes in, and I'd get like Choke and Gracie's in Action and all these old tapes.
I have a storage here in the house. The storage is like 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet. The storage, and I have boxes of those tapes.
Yeah, I had all of them.
And my wife wants to throw them out, and I don't let her.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
I said, you leave before those tapes.
Yeah, it was so crazy. It's awesome, man. Watching those, and it's like you were such an inspiration because you came from the Gracie family, but to me, you had that extra. I mean, I was watching Rickson. Rickson was a big inspiration for me as well in the Vale Tudos. I think it was like 97-ish or something like that. But you had that fire, like you had a real fire when you fought, and so coming from the Gracie family, but being less like the Gracies, I guess. You had the BJJ, but you were that fighter that was just so hungry and that aggressive attitude, and that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be aggressive and go out there and be the same as you,
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that. I was taught by Hollis. Hollis was very open-minded. He trained boxing, judo, wrestling, everything. So my whole life, after I trained with the gi, I finished my training, I would look for someone to go roll with no gi. And every time I could, I would go learn Muay Thai, I would go learn boxing. I always like it a lot. And I thought that for a fighter to be good, he needs to be complete,
Absolutely. And you were. And it was incredible. I remember you had a fight that was like Pentagon Combat or something a long time ago, and there was like a riot. And it was like
they broke the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Holy Grail tape. It was the hardest one to find because everybody was talking about it, but like nobody had the tape, and so we were all trying to get that tape to watch that fight. And it was something to do with like, I guess, your family versus another family or team or something, and y'all.
Yes, it was us against the Luta Livre guys. They were our biggest opponents back in Brazil. And it was interesting because they invaded the event, and they had 200 people around the ring.
Oh, wow. I remember.
They completely invaded. So the promoter said to me, look, you don't need to go in to fight. It's the situation we cannot kick them out. They have more people than the security that we have. They had like maybe 20 or 30 security, and they couldn't remove the guys. They were like over 200. So the whole time that I was fighting, I said, no way, man, lock that cage. I know that the fight will solve inside there. So as I'm fighting, every time I put my back on the fence, they would kick me, my hand or my
so
back,
crazy.
my head. And I remember I see this guy, the guy keeps following me wherever I was in the ring and kicking me. So I look at him and I say, my man, you hit softer than my mom used to hit me. Say, what's wrong with you? So at one moment he puts his head above the cage to curse me, and I clocked him right on the nose. I hit him, and then my brother got him outside.
Yeah.
And then it was a huge riot. It was like 400 people fighting at the same time, and they broke the whole arena. It was an amazing experience, I cherish those memories a lot.
Yeah, that was old school. And then like coming up in America, like, you know, I would see these tapes and see these fights, and I didn't realize how sparsely they were. Like it wasn't a big deal in Brazil. Like when I was coming up and saw you guys fighting in Brazil and watching all these fights, I assumed fighting was huge in Brazil, like it is kind of in America now kind of thing. And
Yes,
until I went there,
no.
I went there for the first time and actually trained there, it's almost like Brazil looked down upon fighters, kind of like they did with us
Yes.
here. And I was so surprised. I'm like, I thought I was going to the heart of fighting because all I saw was Gracie's and Gracie's in action and all this stuff. But it was like it was the opposite, and I couldn't even believe that. So how has that changed? You know, considering it's changed in America and everywhere else.
Now it's a big difference. Now it's for sure the second national sport. They talk about fighting everywhere. They idolize the fighters, and it's a funny thing. It's like you need to shine outside to bring the value to your own country. You know, because back then the same way that the newspapers today go against Trump and go against Bolsonaro, my president in Brazil, they used to go against fighting. You know, they promote soccer a lot. My father was president of the Maracanã Stadium, and I never watched a game. I would go there to see my father and then leave when the game began. You know, I never liked it because I thought it put a shadow over everybody else, all the other sports that deserve recognition.
Right.
And the press, they were making money out of this, and they completely refused to promote other sports. So fighting was that. But the moment that I moved to America was 1996, and that's when the fighting began to get popular and taking strength and start shining in the United States, in the Emirates, in Japan, and then everything began, you know. And now in Brazil, I was just invited. I was just there recently, I think 10 days ago with my president, my Brazilian president, and we are setting up. They're going to start teaching Jiu-Jitsu in schools in Brasilia. They're going to begin from Brasilia, and then they will spread all over the country. That's the goal now. So it's beautiful.
So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be actually available in schools, like wrestling is in America.
Like a regular a part of the curriculum. You know, this already happens in the Emirates, in Abu Dhabi. It already happens in the whole country. Right now, this year, if it wasn't the pandemic, they passed a law that was mandatory from kindergarten to college, and the military and the police. You wouldn't be able to go up in rank if you didn't have a belt in Jiu-Jitsu. That's how they were making, you know. So everybody will have to train. Right now they have 125,000 people training Jiu-Jitsu in the Emirates, and they were going up to 250 after this law went through. You know, so it's really growing everywhere. They had Jiu-Jitsu for the first time on the Asian Games. I think was the same day that I fought in Manila. They were having the games in Asia.
Let me ask you a question, because you just mentioned the cops. I am a big supporter of all first responders. I think they're heroes, and I think people turning against them right now, defunding them, I don't agree with. But I do think that there's some bad seeds, there's some bad people, obviously in every area of the world, and also I firmly believe that they're not trained enough. What is your take on that? Because when you watch the latest one with Jacob or whatever, and he could have easily tackled the guy, or I mean, he was holding a shirt. And then he followed him all the way around and then tried to shoot him 7 times. He shot him 4 times.
Yes.
That could have been easily resolved if that guy had the proper training. What is your take on that?
I'm with you 100%. You know, I believe the police officers are my heroes. You know, I admire them a lot. And I'm always on their side. The other day, actually, I saw a situation near my house here. The guy was pulling over, and it was more than one guy. It was like 3 guys that he was having to handcuff. I pull over my car right away, and I step out, and I was waiting. You know, if he needed help, I was jumping right in. You know, thank God everything went quietly. But when you look situation like that, for sure, if you realize why people make fun, the cops, all they eat is donuts. Have you seen that? They say that. Why? They don't they are not paid enough. Like they shouldn't defund the police. They should have raised their salary. You know, the other day I was looking here where my city taxes are going for, and 93% of what I pay yearly from my house goes to the school. So with the rest of the 7, they have to take care of the fire department, the city, the officials, and then the police. So it's too little. You know, they have to live in a tight budget, you know, and sometimes they cannot do the right diet and they cannot train proper. Yeah. That's why you see so many police officers, you know, overweight and with problems like that, and without the confidence of managing managing situations like this one that they end up in a shootout, And I believe if they add, I'm right now working with the captain, Brian McPherson. Brian McPherson is one of my black belts, and he used to have one guy in the UFC. We used to have one of his students for the UFC and everything. And we've been working and developing a program. We're going to begin teaching. He's a captain. He used to be a captain of New Jersey Troopers. Now he's a captain at the New York Port Authority. Okay. So our goal is to begin a program with them and then, spread all over the United States for all the police officers, That's our goal. But if they learn how to handle these situations, accidents like that won't happen.
I mean, I feel this way, and I know you feel this way. There needs to be at least a combatives, I would say BJJ, but combatives or some type of program for an extended period of time for these police officers. I heard that some of their training is 6 weeks, and you and I were getting, we were going through 12-week fight camps for one fight, and these guys are going through 6 weeks of training to be cops. Yeah. And other people that don't know about fighting as much as we do or agreeing that they need more training, what do you think is the problem? Why don't you think anybody at the higher level is listening to that and putting an emphasis on getting these police officers trained at a higher degree?
People on that higher level, you see, America is a very safe place. Now it's been a little different. Like New York is a completely different city. Right. The other day, I was driving to pick up a friend of mine right on 47th Street. He was waiting for me on the Diamond District. So as I'm driving, I see this young lady with a very small shorts, holding 3 bags, and she was drunk. So she was wobbling the street. Normally in New York, I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't bother me at all, that situation for her. But for some reason, when I saw the streets, I pulled over immediately. I locked my car, but I left my car running. And I went to get a cab for her. I went to her and said, "Excuse me, honey, you know well to walk on the streets around at this time. I'm going to get the cab for you now. I'm going to take care of everything, and he's going to drop you home. He's going to take you home." She tried to get her phone. She almost fell. I said, "Sit here, let me get a cab." It took me 10 minutes to get a cab. There was no cabs in the city, no police cars at all passed by, which was impossible in New York, on the beginning of this year. So I finally got a cab. I put her in the cab. The guy charged me $100 to take her to Long Island. I gave him $120, and I said, "Look, knock at the door, put her inside her house. I took a picture of your license plate, and I took a picture of you. I'm calling her tomorrow to make sure that she's fine, that everything is good." So they left. I jumped in. This time that I was there, getting a cab for her, 3 times people came and checked my door, tried to open my door, the door of my car that was parked across the street. 3 times, and this never happened before. Yeah. And I would scream at them. They go, I'm sorry, they walk away. Yeah. So they thought that someone forgot the key inside. They want to get the car and leave. So I jump in the car. I go pick up my friend. And when I got him, I said, "Man, what is this about?" It's the first time that I feel uncomfortable. I'm walking here, and I felt this woman was in danger. I could see it. Yeah. And then he goes, "Renzo, the mayor just emptied the prison and filled up 2 hotels." Yeah. Claiming the COVID danger. He filled up 2 hotels of people from the prison. When I told this to my wife, and he goes to me, "I'm not even walking around the street with a watch on it. I don't put a watch in my wrist. I'm afraid I'm going to get robbed here." So as I told my wife this, in 5 minutes, she sends me a newspaper page explaining who was on those hotels. Who are the people that are on those hotels? It wasn't a regular drug dealer or someone who stole us something that ended up in prison. It was only sexual offenders.
That's crazy.
So he filled it up. Yeah, they called the D2, I think, which is the most aggressive sex offender. Yeah. So they filled it up 2 hotels on 47th Street between 5 and 6, which is called the Diamond District, with rapists.
That's crazy.
With serious sex offenders. That's what they're doing on purpose, for sure. It's like you walk the streets of New York, you have homeless people everywhere. You know how many people ask you for a dollar or for money to eat? Or none. For sure, they're getting paid. They're getting paid to be there. That's what they are doing. They try to destroy and take Trump down. And unfortunately, they attack the police. They attack the police, and they're talking about the funding, putting the police down. The police is intimidated because they can do nothing. Yeah. The other day I was walking the street. There was two police officers. One was a female, And this guy was going off, cursing at them, telling a bunch of things. As I'm coming by, I go, let's show some respect. And then they look at me like a little uncomfortable. And I go, officers, if you want to leave, this is my street, I will fix this dude. I'll make sure that he won't give you no problems anymore. You guys can go, I'll take care of the problem. And then the guy not even want to look at me, you know. And the officers were like, oh. I said, just show respect because this is where I live. This is right next to my academy.
Yeah.
So the 2 more officers were coming. They look and go, it's Renzo. I say, how you doing, guys? You know? But that's what they are doing now. They're intimidated. They cannot even do what they do. They cannot even arrest people now. And you walking in New York is a mess. It's people offering you drugs on every corner. You know, when did I expect to see that in the United States? You know, it's ridiculous.
This pandemic is such an absolute disaster. And I have a feeling that once this election's over, it's miraculously going to start disappearing. Like, I think there's such a huge agenda attached to this thing.
It's unbelievable that everybody's moving off. Like, you have to understand, New York is 70% rental property.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's out. Right here next to my house in Jersey, there's a river, Navesink River. What beautiful house. They had 21 houses for sale. In 1 week, they sold it all.
Wow.
In 1 week. This is all people from New York moving over here. You know, it's unbelievable what they were able to do with the city. Yeah.
How is it affecting your gyms? I mean, I know you have some successful gyms. You got 2 or 3 or 4 right now?
Yeah, I was lucky. We're still closed. I believe we're going to be the first ones to open because we have a license from the state.
Right.
The state issues a license. We are the only 3 gyms that have actually a license in New York because the mayor is not allowing nobody to open nothing. You know,
wow, it's crazy.
He's really struggling to think until the election. At least they're going to try to hold this up. You know, so it's insane. And thank God that my gyms were so successful that I can stay closed until next year. There'll be no problem for me. You know, but I feel sorry for the smaller gyms, for the people around me who are having to return the locations. They can't pay for the rent. They can't fulfill what they have to do without getting students. You know, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm in Thailand, and I had a huge optimistic business goal to build one of the biggest gyms in the world. And I come over here, and everything's going great until they shut it down. And then it's like, now the stress kicks in. When you build a gym this size, you know, and it's a destination gym, Thailand literally shut the island down. Like, how could you ever expect a worst-case scenario that they're going to shut the island and close the airports and allow none of your guests? Because all my guests are international. They're people that fly into Thailand. And then they can't even fly in. So like my gym's open now, thank God. At least we're open and we're able to do stuff, and my employees are able to work and get paid. But it's all people that are stuck here in Thailand. So it's like not that many people. And so we're just waiting and waiting until they open. We have no idea when that's going to be. So I'm just holding that weight and just hoping, you know, the sooner the better. The less we lose and the faster we'll get back to, you know, getting back to normal again, because things were going so good up until this thing happened.
Insane, this whole situation. Luckily, a lot of my students kept paying the academy. They refused to freeze or to cancel, you know, the membership, even though it was open for them to do it. And they say, no, we got to help you now, you know, until we're up. So right now I have over 300 students paying the academy.
Yeah.
So that allowed me to pay all my employees. Everybody got their money. All the rents are paid. Everything's paid, you know.
Good, yeah.
I didn't need to get a loan from the government. So everything was unbelievable. Thanks to the great students that I have too at the same time, you know, and thanks to the funding that I had saved all this year that I've been working.
You're a good business guy, and I wanted to talk to you about that later on, but you've done so well for yourself after fighting, and I admire that a lot because you've made such a successful business with fighting or with post-fighting, and I think that's a big issue now with fighters is they make all this money, and some of us didn't make, you know, back in the old days near as much as these guys that are making all this huge amounts of money now, but it goes fast. It doesn't really matter how much you make. You can spend it fast, and if they don't start investing it.
People don't realize, like Anderson Silva was broke. Imagine this, a guy who made a fortune.
Yeah.
He was broke. What people don't realize, you have to have an income that will cover all your expenses, your living, you know. And what is a rich man? Is a man who can make more money than his wife can spend. This is a secret truth.
That's so true.
Yeah, that's a rich man. So you have to have a business who generate, and then everything else is extra. That's why so many lottery winners end up broke.
Broke a lot of them. Yeah.
They don't realize that a lot of the 98%, a lot of the people from the NFL end up broke. Completely broke at the end of their careers. It's insane because you don't realize you buy a house for your family, you buy a house for yourself, you give cars to them. Next thing you see, you have the expenses, you have the taxes, you have everything that you didn't have it. If you don't have that income, and if you realize that their careers last 5-6 years, in the end of that, they have a huge amount of payments to do, and they don't have the money coming in anymore. It's very common. And if you look like in our sports, people are very selfish when they come to that sport. They train just for themselves. They worry about just themselves, and they don't realize. And that was the difference. When you talk about me being successful, my first thing always was the people that I taught jiu-jitsu, the people that I trained, the people that I took under my umbrella to train them to become fighters, like many cousins, many members of my family. And that made my schools grow in such a way. I had 1,500 students, in one of them. I opened another one at Upper West Side. In 10 months, we had 500 students. This is unheard of in 10 months, So the Brooklyn School were doing 450 students too. So we were doing really good. We're talking about over 2,500 students in a 5-mile radius, of students.
It's crazy.
So so it was insane. So the reality, I was always a good businessman on the sense of running things. I had a bar when I was 16. Mm-hmm. I made that bar get to a point of selling 27 kegs of beer a night. Today, the whole street, I was there recently, the whole street is bars now because of my bar.
Yeah,
and I went there and I asked if there was someone there that could sell 27 kegs of beer a night. Today, they say impossible. Yeah. There was only Pavel and nobody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was only my bar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about revenue streams. I mean, because these big chunks of cash, you taxes, obviously, then management, then gym fees, then the money goes fast. And the more money that you make at one time, the more you spend, or the more richer you feel. And then that money doesn't last. And then if you don't have those revenue streams set up, and I think a big problem is guys that get a big chunk of money, if they see an opportunity to get a revenue stream of, say, $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month, they think that's not a lot of money. But they don't understand if they can get that revenue stream from now until forever through a smart business, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of security. And then you get another one and another one and another one. And that's the way I kind of think. Whereas I think a lot of people, they just love having this cash because of TV and Instagram and everything else. Now you want to have these big chunks of money and then you throw it at crazy stuff and then you run out in a few years. And like you said, people go broke that had a lot of money. Happens all the time.
Yes, it's very common. It's very, very common. I've seen too many times, something they do well for a time. And in our business, it's very common. You see, the next thing you see the guy working at Home Depot, to be able to survive. A guy that was making very good money, like a lot of Brazilian fighters were like Anderson Silva was making a killing. Sure. Thank God for his last fight that he could make some money
and he's moved to the United
States. Now he's in America. The whole time he avoided, was a guy flying private jets. Like, why you need that? Why you need that? You're talking about $180,000 a flight from LA to Brazil.
So much.
It's insane.
That's so much. But what do you think about these fights going on now? What do you think about Dana putting on these fights and these other shows following with no crowds and keeping the sport alive and keeping these fighters fighting? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's the only option now. There's they cannot, and they were doing in Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi was allowed them to do that the same as they allowed Khabib's fight.
Yeah,
UFC, like any other sports, that depends on the crowd, depends on the people watching to make money. It's struggling now. Every sport, NBA is struggling. NFL is struggling. Everybody, it's insane, and UFC couldn't be different, so it's going through a hard time right now, and that's why they're doing those fights. It doesn't look the same when we watch it, you don't feel the same emotion. It's funny. It's a very funny thing, but it reminds me of the time that we used to fight at closed doors in academies when I was young. That's what it looked like.
And it gives the fans a taste of what it's like kind of for us to be in the fight, because when you're in the fight, that's kind of what you hear. You hear the punches land, you hear the grunts, you hear the sounds that are, all those sounds that the fans are being able to hear now. That's what we hear when we're in there. Whereas usually all you hear as a fan is just all the the fans, the screaming and stuff, and it's a show, it's entertainment. Now it's a little more real, gritty.
It looks like the fights in Japan, in Pride in Japan. The crowd will be completely silent. You could hear someone sneezing on the crowd, like if that happened. You could hear everything your cornerman told you. And only when you did something, they would clap without getting up, without screaming, So it reminds me of Japan,
Do you have any fighters coming up with any fights from your gyms?
I have my nephews and my brother, my younger brother. My younger brother is 29 years old, 28, 29 years old, and he's fighting Bellator. They have a fight now on the 12th, and I'll be there with him. With Neyman is fighting Fitch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother is fighting a guy that he was supposed to fight when they canceled the event in the Mohegan Sun. So it's going to be on the 12th this month, and I'll be there with them.
And they're just training normal as much as they can, just probably with less people, I guess, probably, right? A little bit more secure.
Yes. Oh, well, I make it in a way that only the professional guys are training right now.
Just a little bit.
And it's a funny situation. There was a bunch of guys who got the COVID, and they had like the symptoms of a flu for 4 days, and they were healing. They healed it. And they were training again.
And many don't have symptoms at all. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a crazy disease. You don't know what's going on. I don't know if they should have that many close everything and hurt everybody in such a way because of a regular flu. That's what it looks like,
Yeah. Would you rather have the vaccine or the COVID?
COVID.
Me too.
I would rather have the COVID.
Yeah, I would. I'm never taking that vaccine, man. I'll take my chances.
And they just found out that you can get it again. So how can you take a vaccine of something that you can get it twice? Like I spoke to Sheikh Tahnoun the other day. They're developing the vaccine there for the Chinese, and they are testing on the soldiers, and he told me that they are very near of getting the vaccine ready for it, and he offered me to be one of the first ones to take with him.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if I want that.
No way, dude.
I would rather have the COVID and let my body fight this,
We've seen so many fighters pop for it, and I've yet to see one fighter fighting for his life in the hospital. It's you hear of someone popping and not being able to go to an event, and then they go into the next one. Or I actually know of some that never said anything that actually had COVID during their fight camps and failed the test and then fought through it and then ended up making their fights because they tested negative before the fight. And they never stopped training, and they just went right through it. So it's crazy how that works.
It's insane. It's insane. And I was the head of the COVID department on the biggest hospital in Queens was one of my students.
Yeah.
And one day, this was 3 months and a half ago, he comes to me and say, "We're closing." That's exactly when that boat left New York. The boat they made the campaign hospital in there. There was 1,000 beds, and they attend 170 people, none of them related to COVID, for you to have an idea. And so they left, and at the same week they closed this department of COVID. And the guy said, "I said, why are you closing?" He goes, "We don't have nobody sick. Nobody's coming in." But like in Brazil, they claim that a lot of people are dying. So I go down there. I was down there 10 days ago. And I asked the president, I say, why are they claiming that so many people are dying in Brazil? He goes, "Renzo, this is it's a country of poor people. There's a lot of poor people. When they go to the hospital, the guy gets shot by a bullet and died. And the doctors would say to them, look, if you say he had COVID, the funeral, no expenses, everything's paid by the government.
Yeah.
And the hospital makes extra money. So they go and say the guy died of COVID."
Yeah.
So, recent now, they went to a study. They found out only 6% actually of all the people that they claim he died had COVID.
That's 6% of the deaths, not even 6% of the total COVID people. So that's even less. It's like less than 1% or something. It's crazy, and they're calling it a pandemic.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Like you can almost die of anything more than COVID. It seems like literally.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And because they have this advantage, they had everything paid: the funeral, the transportation, everything, the bills. And here in America, you don't have a copay. So if you have insurance, you go in with COVID when you finish. And I learned that from a Brazilian friend of mine who got COVID. He went to the hospital. In the end, there was no copay because it was COVID. Everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
So that happens here too. In one way or another, they are doing the same.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Considering how you came up old school and you were a trailblazer for the sport and BJJ, but then obviously in MMA as well. How crazy is it how big the sport's gotten and how big these fights are? And now you have your family fighting in these events. And how different is it now for you getting them prepared and them showing up compared to the old days when I mean, it's night and day, but what is it like for you, like your perspective on how big it's gotten?
It's amazing, man. You know, and to be honest, I love so much our sport that I thought it took too long. It should have been there before, you know, because it's the most appealing sport. When you go watch hockey, you want to see the fight.
Yeah.
When you go watch,
that's true.
When you go watch NASCAR race, you want to see the crash. We want to see those cars crashing. When you go watch American football, you want to see the guy get hit and flying all over the place.
Yeah.
The reality, this is what pleases us and entertains us. In our sport, you're going to see that for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
The only way you could compare, let's say, swimming with fighting would be if the moment that Phelps jumped in the water, they let go an alligator after him. You know? So he had to out swim the alligator and get out of the pool. Yeah, it would be the only way to do it. So our sport is the most entertaining thing ever, and you can never predict. There's events that I sat down from 10 fights, and I know all the fighters, and I knew them all, and I knew their style, how they fought, and I picked eight wrong decisions in the end. You know, so that shows how unpredictable this sport is, and every time it's a surprise box. There's nothing more entertaining than fighting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think Dana said it best one time. He's like, it is amazing what you said about how it took so long for it to become so big, because it is such a simple sport to get. Like Dana said it best, I think, because he's like, you can have the UFC or Bellator or any of these fights playing in any country, and you don't have to know the language. You don't have to know, what the commentary is. You can just watch and know what's going on. You can have a good idea, unless it's close, who's winning and what's going on. So it's such a simple thing to grasp, and it's in our DNA. It is amazing it took so long for it to get so big.
Yeah, once that door locks, once that gate locks, or once the bell rings, you can't hide who you are. Inside there, and everybody who's watching, doesn't matter the language, doesn't matter the citizenship, doesn't matter the color of his skin, his religion, he will understand. The one man is afraid of the other. The one man is losing to the other. You can't hide in there. That's I really believe that's the sport of truth,
Yeah.
And it's exactly that. It doesn't matter. I watch fights in Russia. I watch fights in Abu Dhabi. I watch fights in Japan, in Manila, everywhere I went, it was the same. I felt like I was at home. That's the thing,
Let me ask you, what's your most memorable, best win and most memorable win or performance in BJJ and in MMA? What are the two wins that stand out the most in your entire career? I know you had a long one, so it might be a tough question.
Yeah, I believe it will be the next one. That moment that I didn't leave yet, the moment that I still don't have, and I'm fighting again. I'm fighting until the end of this year.
Really?
I just went to Brazil to have a match in the academy with Wallid Ismail, and he chickened out. He didn't show up. We had set up to fight in the academy, and whoever wins will have the rights of the footage. And he disappeared. He didn't show up.
You went to Brazil to fight Wallid Ismail.
Yeah, last week, 10 days ago.
And then the winner was going to have the rights to be able to have bragging rights to the footage and put it online.
Yes.
And he didn't show up.
He didn't show up. He chickened out.
You're such a fighter, man.
Can you believe it?
You're such a fighter.
He was challenging me. He was talking a lot on the internet. And then he said, on the 8th, I will fight you. I said, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming over. And I had a problem here because a tree fell in my house and took the power down on the light poles I had in front of my house. So I couldn't leave on the 5th. I was supposed to fight him on the 8th this month.
Yeah.
So I couldn't leave on the 5th. I had to wait until I set up everything for my family. I put generators here so they would have the refrigerators will be working, some lights in the house. So after I did that, I flew. I was supposed to get there on the 7th. And then there was a kid who ingested drugs to fly to Brazil. And after 3 hours in the flight, they had to return and took the kid out, so he could puke the drugs that he had in his stomach and all that mess. We had to stay in Houston one more night. So I arrived there on the 8th at 1:15 at the airport. My flight was supposed to be at 3:30. I jumped in a cab, went to my mom's home, took a shower, ran for 20 minutes, and did some shadow box, went straight there to fight him, and he didn't show up.
So you actually made it on time.
Believe.
You actually made it, and he wasn't there still.
I made it 3:15. I was there. 3:15. I was there.
How did you
I
tell?
was 15 minutes earlier.
Did anybody know about this? How do I not know about this? Was this?
Oh, it was mostly in Brazil. They were talking a lot in Portuguese. It was everywhere. Then the wife came to ask, "What's going on between you and Wallid?" I say, "I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him."
Can I ask you what the rules were?
It will be the old style, bare-knuckle.
Old style.
Like we used to do.
Wow.
Like you did the whole life, and he didn't show up. I couldn't believe. So this is like I told you, is the memory that he didn't give me. That I'll be angry at him forever because of that. He promised that he'll be there. They will fight. He was in shape. He was calling me chubby, and I was posting on the internet pictures of me, old pictures that I was overweight, on purpose.
Yeah.
And then I was in the best shape of my life now. I couldn't feel better. I was beating all the kids that I was rolling with, that I was training with. I was looking to put my hands on him. But didn't happen. But for sure, I'll be fighting until the end of the year, at least once or twice. Since I'm in shape already, I'm gonna keep training and I'm gonna go have fun. I'm 53 now. My last fight was when I was 51 in Manila against Yuki Kondo.
Yep,
and won.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. So I'm the Gracie who most fought. I'm the Gracie who fought the oldest. So you can't beat that. I have to set standards for the new generation so they can follow.
I mean, you look great right now, but you feel okay and everything at your age?
Not one injury. I don't feel tired. I'm working out the whole day, the whole time with my son, with the guys at the academy. And when I roll, I feel actually better than before.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And there's no talk of any opponents or anything?
Not yet. They talk about Sakuraba,
Oh, that'd be interesting.
When I fought Kondo, I was supposed to fight Sakuraba. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Anybody they choose will be great. I can, I love to fight and I love to test myself. You talk about fights in the past. I love when I fought Oleg Taktarov. It was a big challenge,
Yeah.
He was a heavyweight and I was 155 pounds.
Yeah.
Almost 160. So it's, him, Maurice Smith was a great match too. I never had a bad day when I stepped in there. It was always a good day.
I'm looking forward to seeing you get in there again, man. You seem like you're pumped up and you're ready, and you seem like the same you as always. It's crazy that you're in your 50s. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, man, I love it, and I can't wait to be back in there. I can't wait. And I already telling my grandson. I have a grandson, 5 years old, Roman, and he loves the fights. And he always tells me, I say, "What are you gonna be when you grow up?" He goes, "A fighter." I say, "Yes."
Of course, yes.
There's two things that he say: a fighter and a police officer. That's the two things
Yeah.
he says to me all the time. And he loves to watch the fights with me. When there's fights, we sit down and he pushes me. Look. When the fight gets good, he pushes me to see it. So I can't wait to take him to one of my fights.
Hey everyone, I'm going to take a second to thank our sponsor, aka Thailand, the world's premier luxury training resort here in Phuket, Thailand. As of the taping of this podcast, if you watch this podcast, you're probably sick of hearing this. I'm so sorry. I'll make this as quick as possible. As of the taping of this podcast, we are still offering a 30% off special for all group training classes. You can go to akthailand.com. All of it's set up. You can book any group training for a week, a month, a year, 2 years, however long you want to book it. 30% discount with no expiration date. It's the biggest sale we've ever had and ever will have, and it will end soon because we are about to open up the borders next month, and people are going to start coming in, and they're going to pay full price. So then we're not going to offer them 30% off. So this is for people who pre-book. And if you are not familiar with the gym and you haven't heard of AK Thailand before, here you go.
What's up, everybody? I am here in Thailand. This is the first time I've ever been here. Been dying to come here for years. Mike Swick, he's one of the big reasons he's been trying to pull me down here. What he built down here, AKA Thailand, is incredible. There's people here from all over the world. You can train mixed martial arts here, Jiu-Jitsu. They have weightlifting, they have cardio, and obviously they have Muay Thai, boxing, everything. I'm telling you guys, I know everybody wants to go to Thailand because Thailand's so cool, but you can't come to Thailand without coming to AKA Thailand. Come on.
You know, I had Matt Serra on my show a while back, and then I recently had your manager, Ali, actually my very last episode. I just posted it yesterday. And both of those guys attributed you to helping them with their careers. So Matt Serra said you pulled him into BJJ, and then he became a world champion MMA fighter in the UFC. And then Ali said you're the one that asked him to be a manager. And then y'all had y'all's first meeting with Dana and Lorenzo, and now he's one of the top managers, if not the top manager in the world. Anything that you can talk about that?
Yeah, I believe he's a top manager. He has over 128 fighters under his company, and like 103 or 98 in UFC alone. You know, it's amazing how well these boys did it. You know, this is the thing. It's like if you ask, what is a good teacher? A good teacher is the guy who makes his students shine.
Right.
Makes them better than I am. My goal, my whole life was to make them 10 times better than I could ever dream of. You know, Matt Serra used to work in a booth, in a factory, as a security. He couldn't sleep. He was always tired on the train. I said, "Why are you tired?" He goes, "I can't sleep. I'm in a booth." I said, "But people keep going in and out at night." He goes, "No, I just watch the place at night."
Right.
I said, "Why don't you lay down and sleep? Forget about it." He goes, "I can't. The place is so small that I can only sit. If I put my back on the floor, my legs have to be up, so I can't sleep." I said, "Man, forget this. Come to work with me here. Let's begin helping me at the academy, and then we make matters meet, and then we make it happen." And that's exactly what happened. You know, and when he got his black belt, I used to have this school in Long Island. I left and left for him. He began teaching all the guys and opened his gym. And today he has a very successful business. He runs a very good business, you know. And I'm very proud of him. Same as Ali. Ali, I could recognize that he always tried to help people, you know, especially our fighters. We didn't have a manager, actually. So when I went to sign up with the UFC in 2010, I said, "Ali, come, you're going to be my manager. You're going to make some serious money." Now, he made, back then, he made $42,000. You know, he was happy as hell.
Yeah, I bet.
So I was able, I could get him that. And then I put him to be the manager for Frank. And from that, he went. He was very good at this. You know, he works very hard. And today he's the number one manager in the business.
I mean, I can tell from Matt Serra, his work ethic, and I know him a lot better. For Ali, I just had him on the podcast, and so it's just talking to him, you know, from his perspective, but from your perspective, because you know him very well, what do you think it is that made him so successful? Because like I asked him, he has so much trust and so much loyalty from his guys. And then obviously from you just saying, "Hey, be my manager," and then he just says, "Okay," and goes to the UFC and then just does it and then becomes what he is today. What do you think it is about him that really made him, and did you see that?
I said how he should work. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest difference between Ali and all the other managers? The managers get paid when the fighter fights, when he signed the contract, whatever happens. Any money comes into the managers and then goes to the fighter.
Right.
I made the opposite. I say, from now on, you don't touch one dime. The money goes to the fighter pays you after. Mm-hmm. So it was like that he began with Frank Edgar. I remember after every Frank's fight, he would come and get the train to come get the money, to get the check from Frank at Frank's house in Toms River. Mm-hmm. Like an hour and a half from the city. Yeah. So that was the big difference. That's why there's no gray areas, because before I was hearing about managers taking the money that was returned from taxes from people, you know, scamming fighters all the time, a bunch of Don Kings. So our business were becoming like Don King, like boxing.
Right. So
I set the standards for Ali, how he had to work. And then I had all the contacts. I put him in contact with everybody. Now he's going to help One a lot. He's working with Shatri at One. So for sure, we're going to see a lot of his fighters joining One FC, you know, One Fighting Championship and everything, because I set up in ways that he can be dishonest. He can, you know, he has to defend the fighter. He has to work for the fighter. That's what he's proposing to get paid for. So he has to do it. And it was perfect. Look how fast he grew and how efficient he became, you know. And now he has a whole team working, and he's able to afford a whole office, and he's doing great.
Yeah, and I seen him in action because I was sitting next to Justin Gaethje like a while back before Justin was like as big as he is now. He was coming up, and I remember that he needed something, and Ali was sitting next to him, and Ali was just like on it. I mean, he was on the phone, and he was like, "Let's get this here," and boom, 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 boom. And I was just thinking like, man, we didn't have that like back in the old days, you know, like we didn't have guys that like took care of us like that. And so I knew then he was a little different.
Yeah, I specified for him everything. I remember the first meeting I had with Dana. That's the one that he came, you know, and And I remember we sit down, he goes to me, Renzo, you can't say nothing. You can't talk. I'm going to do all the talking. I say, no problem. So I called Dana before and I say, look, Dana and the Fertitas, I say, look, I'm going to bring this kid. He's new on the business, but he's very good. He's going to end up being good at this, and he's going to work with you guys a lot. Let him talk whatever he wants. Don't take nothing serious after I give you a call and I close with you over the phone. So they say, okay. We walk in, we're talking, and after 20 minutes of meeting, he looks at Dan and goes, a lot of people say you are a prick, but I kind of like you. Then I was red. Look at me and goes, Renzo, only for you. Only for you. And today they're great friends.
Yeah.
They're great friends today.
That's incredible.
But it was funny. Yeah. That was the first meeting. And he could barely speak English.
Yeah.
His English was extremely poor, He's much better now.
Yeah. That's a good story. But he goes to bat for his guys. I mean, I seen him attack Kobe, and like he goes to bat for his guys, and you can tell he has that fire. If I can tell he takes care of his guys, and they're like family to him. I can definitely sense that.
Yes. And one thing that people have to understand on the Muslim culture, there's something called haram, which is bad karma.
Right.
So every time I was putting him on that business, I would tell him, look, only do what is right. Look after them and your life will change, And it's so funny for you to have an idea after this whole problem begun with the pandemic and everything. Who calls me? He calls me and goes, Renzo, I have this amount of money in an account that I'm not using. Feel free to take whatever you want, So that shows, the big soul that he is, the amazing heart he has, He goes, take everything. You can use it for the academies, for the people that work for you. Feel free. That shows. And the day that he bought his first house and he called me crying, showing me the whole house with his phone.
Yeah.
This is going to be my kids' rooms, and they're showing me the beds, and this is my, I can raise my kids on this house now. Thank you, Master. Thanks for everything. So this is priceless, brother. This is what we take from life, and I'm glad I could help amazing people like Ali and Matt Serra and many others who are around me all the time.
I have to say, man, because one thing, I haven't sat down and talked to you for this long ever, but we've had short talks here and there, and we've hung out here and there. But it's like you have such a positive energy about you, and it's like even earlier when we talked, and now, and like it's just like you have such a positive energy, and it's hard to not be in a good mood when I'm around you and when I'm talking to you, and I think that's such a great attribute to have. That's some Dale Carnegie stuff, and like. I just have to tell you that, man. It's such a relief to. I enjoy podcasts like this to be able to talk to somebody with such positive energy, because I think it's so contagious in a good way versus negative energy so contagious in a bad way. And I think that's probably a huge reason why you influence so many people.
It's so true, man. And a lot of people come to tell me that, I have a lot of things that I don't mention, I don't talk about. I have a lot of people that call me and say, Renzo, I was thinking about killing myself. But when I start hearing you, I quit. I want to thank you for that. You know how many messages like that I got? How many? So and thank God I'm like this and I can help people, I had one guy that called me telling me that he was killing himself. I want to kill myself. I'm just letting you know to say goodbye to you because I couldn't leave without saying goodbye to you. I said, man, and he promised me a sword. So I said, well, what about the sword that you told me that you're going to give me, a samurai sword? I'm supposed to meet you and get the sword from you. And this was over Twitter or Instagram, a message. And then he goes, no, I will leave it here and I'll put a note so they deliver it to you. I said, no, you know that a samurai sword has to be delivered in hands. You can't send to somebody else. And he goes, Renzo, not even you will be able to convince me not to kill myself today. And I say like this, so can I ask you a favor? Then, since you are going, can I ask you a favor? And he goes, yeah. I say, can you take a note to my brother who died? So since you're going to the other side, let me make you a note so you can take it to him. And then he was silent and he goes, okay, I will wait for that note. I still didn't write that note. And that motherfucker the other day, he was a specialist he was a fireman.
Yeah.
He saved the whole building that was on fire. The people were sleeping, someone threw a cigarette. The bottom of the building caught on fire, and luckily he came home late. He was able to evacuate the whole building before the whole place went on flames, And until the people arrived, probably a lot of people would be dead. And he saved them all his neighbors, And then he called me and I said, do you realize sometimes you have one thing to do in your life that you cannot leave earlier. When is your time? You're going to die sitting down in a chair watching TV if that's your time. So make a difference. Live intensely until the last second, until the last moment. And he calls me until today. I just did every time he does something good, he calls me and tells me what's going on, what he's doing, And he calls me father now. He calls father.
That's so incredible.
It's the best. It's the best. Yeah, man. That's what I told you. It's the real reward that you get from life. I got one this week and offering to help me with anything I need, anybody who needs help, because I saved his life. He goes, man, your way of talking, your way of seeing things. I was in a dark place, but every time I hear you, things change. I live under the philosophy that I was born naked and toothless, and we are dressed and with a mouthful of teeth. We are ahead by far in the game. Yeah. So why, any life is problems. Problems will come to you.
Yeah.
It's how you see them. It's not you can't let them put you down and make you quit and make you, it has to push you forward. It's just how you deal with them. I'm 53 and I don't have one gray hair. Imagine this. And people keep thinking I dye my hair. It's not. It's because I'm happy for the whole day. It doesn't matter what happened. Even if I sleep an hour at night, I get up and I actually went to sleep 3:30 when I called you today in the morning. I was looking for Ben. I said, I have to be at 9. He was going to call it.
That panicked me when you called me, man. Because sometimes someone will call me before and okay, so we got the podcast in an hour, right? Or a reminder call. I usually send the reminder. But you called me and you were sitting there podcast time, and I wasn't ready because I made the huge mistake. And I was like, oh my God, I made a mistake. He's ready for the podcast. And I want to thank you so much for being so positive and so nice about it, because you were just being you. And looking back at your fights just really fast, because I saw the aggressive, the side of you that I like, because I wanted to be a fighter and use that aggression and that intensity in fighting. Were you always like this, finding the positive things and stuff, or did you have to learn this through time or or what was it that changed you, if it did?
Yeah, I was very lucky. My family, on my mother's side, there was a bunch of crazy Lebanese. They were so much love I got from them. I couldn't see life in a bad way. It's like the love that they gave me, the attention, the life lessons, it was amazing. It was amazing. Like everything I did, and they see me only as a champion. Even though I didn't have no athletic abilities, I wasn't strong. I was very skinny, and they made me see myself as a champion. They made me believe that anything that I want to do, it was possible. And they were right. Look what they did, look what I have put it together, what I have accomplished, and I remember the other day that there's a guy here now. He used to be the Minister of Culture of Brazil. And when the president of Brazil made me an ambassador of tourism for Brazil, he went to look and to see who I was. He didn't know. He heard about the Gracies, but he had no idea. So he went to make a research about me. Mm-hmm. After 6 months, he called me and said, look, after studying you for 6 months, I realize you are a unique individual. I want to write a book about you. I say, no problem. How are you going to do it? I say, I'm going to move to New York and be there with you for 6 months writing the book. Interviewing all your friends, all the people connected to you. And, he finished the interview with my mom yesterday, and he called me right after. He called me yesterday. It was almost midnight. Yeah. And he goes, now I understand why you are the way that you are. Your mother is amazing. She talks about you with such a love, and the way that she sees you, and the way that she told me that she raised you, and it's insane. So he's writing the book right now, and he goes to me, Renzo, the problem is I came down on the first meeting I had with you. I wrote 40 pages. Mm-hmm. He goes, on the first sitting with you, we having a meal and talking, he wrote 40 pages. I said, wow. Crazy, man. And then he goes, I don't know, this book may be bigger than Muhammad Ali book, biography. We may have to do.
You've done a lot.
A lot. And when I sit down to think, that's when I realize, recently I made a business deal between Brazil and Emirates, right? One day my phone rings, is the Sheikh Tarnoum is calling me, say, Renzo, I need to meet your friend. I say, which one of them? He goes, the Brazilian president. I say, when do you want to meet them? He goes, 20 days from now. I say, no problem. Let me get up, take a shower. I'm going to get a plane and fly to Brazil. Right? He goes, today? I say, yeah, I got to begin now. If you want 20 days from now, let me go solve this. I jumped in a plane that day, went to Brazil. And I met the president, actually, before. I wasn't very close friends to him, you know? So I met him. I helped his campaign a little, but we're not friends. So I arrive in Brazil, and I go straight. I take a car, go straight. And I had this lawyer with me, and the lawyer goes, Renzo, but does he know you're coming? I said, no problem. He goes,
wow.
This is the Brazilian president. You can't show up like this. I said, drive to the Brazilian White House there, please. So he takes me there, to the Palácio, the Palácio Planalto. So I go there. I go to the security. Is the president in the house? The guy goes, yes. I say, can you please let him know that Renzo is here? I want to see him. The guy goes, do you have an appointment? I say, no. Just say Renzo is here. He knows me. And the guy start laughing and go, you are crazy. And he calls for the security in there. In 2 minutes comes a guy to pick me up and take me inside.
Wow.
You know? The next day I had breakfast with him. I was able to put a deal together between both countries where Brazilians don't need visa to go to United Arab Emirates anymore. Brazilians can go to United Arab Emirates, open a company, and issue themselves a working visa. They can run a business from there.
Wow.
You know, so they open the gates. They're making there a hub for Brazil to do business with Asia, with Middle East, with everything. This is unheard of. Then
that is crazy. Yeah.
The total was like 4 months. I was able to put them. The Brazilian president flew in with 150 diplomats and politicians, and they signed a deal. They signed a deal between the two countries that all this is happening, and they invest. The total was $40 billion in Brazil.
Wow.
$40 billion. Yeah. You know, and it was the best because the sheik looked at me and goes, Renzo, do you know what you did for your country? It's great. How much are they paying you? I say, my brother, if I was making a dime out of this, I wouldn't feel as good as I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I could help back my country, the place that I grew up, the place where the people that I love live. So I'm happy that I could do for them without getting paid. You know, and then he looked at me, he goes, you are different. Anybody else would do this for money.
Incredible.
I thought I was setting your life too at the same time. I said, my life is already set. Don't worry about this. I never miss nothing. I have everything I need, you know? And he was like, you never cease to amaze me. You always surprise me.
That is incredible,
you know?
Renzo. I can't even believe that.
It was unbelievable.
That is so incredible. And I'm definitely going to read your book for sure.
Yeah. And now, and just another thing, Brazil was lacking a few COVID tests, kits, you know? They were lacking a bunch of things. So we were able to organize, and they sent a plane with 12,000 kilos of equipment, of corona tests. He did the same for Las Vegas too. He supplied the whole city of Las Vegas with COVID tests, with all the material. He did for Las Vegas and did for Brazil. He sent a plane loaded and landed there and delivered everything to the president. So he spread all over the poor communities. He gave everything away. It was amazing.
Incredible.
And this was like a month ago. Yeah, a month ago.
Wow, that's I don't know where to go from there. That's so incredible.
Yeah,
that's so incredible.
I know. And the funny thing, nobody mentioned about this. Nobody talks. The press in Brazil don't talk about because they don't support the president. You know.
Yeah.
So it was a funny thing. Yeah, but you know, I'm happy I did. Very happy I did.
Good for you. I hope a lot of people find this out. And like I said, your book is going to be incredible. I didn't know half of the stuff we talked about today. What would your advice, because you've been around successful BJJ players or fighters and MMA fighters for so long and seen what it takes to make champions and to make good guys. What is your best advice to guys that are coming up that you see that they're making as mistakes now to help guide them in the right direction? Like what is your best advice to young guys that want to be really good in BJJ and want to be really good at MMA?
The most important thing ever is to know that you are always a white belt. Always think humble. Like you are a white belt. Never refuse knowledge. Doesn't matter believe it. I'm in a restaurant. Someone want to show me a move. I go on the floor with him to see the move. Yeah. You know, it's like the moment that you put a black belt and you begun believing that you know everything and everybody else is stupid, that's when you become the Dead Sea. Yeah. Is the sea, the water only comes in, the salt just comes in and nothing goes out. Yeah. So, you know, it's like you have to be always open for knowledge. You have to be always open for the other people's way of seeing things, because that may improve you a lot. You know, the other day, the guy, I was teaching a class of only for black belts, and then they look at me, they go, how they didn't think that before? How I didn't, because they don't realize they close themselves and they believe what they know, it's enough. They know everything. And when you do that, and it's a funny thing, because I have a huge problem to even save the name of a submission or a move.
Mm-hmm.
I have a huge problem with that, because if I believe you name it and you put a label on it, you can change, you can adapt, you can improve, you can grow. You know, it's a funny thing. And sometimes people can be, oh, how do I do this guard, this donkey guard? How do I do? I just think, you got to show me. I don't know what that is. You know, I don't know the name of nothing. You know, I know choke from the side, choke from the back, choke from the mouth. That's how I call it. You know, it's a funny thing. But so the most important, never close your mind for knowledge. You know, I have the other day, a guy came in my academy, and when I arrived, he was in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
I'm coming, I see him in a wheelchair with a gi. I said, my man, are you training? He goes, yeah. I said, sorry, we don't have an elevator. I got him, I put him in my back, and I went up. You know who was there? Marshall, Elliot Marshall was there.
Elliot Marshall, okay.
You know, and he was there to do an interview. He filmed. He posted somewhere. He filmed when I arrived with this guy on my back.
Wow.
And I said, hey, Elliot, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. So I put the guy on the mat. I said, man, go change. I got his wheelchair. Somebody else brought his wheelchair. He went to change, and then we trained. And it was amazing, because for the fact that he doesn't have the use of his legs, he works in different leverages to finish, to apply submissions, to apply chokes, to apply. And I want to learn from him, because imagine if I can do what he does, having my legs,
right?
You know? And it was an unbelievable experience. So I have two guys in a wheelchair. They're always teaching me moves, those two guys. One is Brian Freeman. You know, another guy that thought he wasn't a cripple, and he suffered an accident. He became paralyzed from the waist down. And he was thinking about killing himself too. Yeah. And then his daughter asked to join Jiu-Jitsu. Let me go to Jiu-Jitsu. Today, he teaches seminar all over the United States. He teaches Jiu-Jitsu. He's an amazing Jiu-Jitsu guy. He always comes and stay here in my house with me and his daughter and the whole crew here, you know. You know, and it's amazing. And Jiu-Jitsu he goes, Renzo, I was thinking about, I said, how can I live with be able to walk? Today, I love Jiu-Jitsu. I see my daughter growing. Yeah. You know, it's one of the most amazing stories I have ever seen in my life. And I was happy to be part of that. And he goes, and after I met you, that's when I push him. You got to start doing seminars. You got to start teaching, compete. So he made competition against other people with paralyzed from the waist down. Amazing. You know, amazing souls that are now contributing to our jiu-jitsu. And they always teach me new leverage and new moves.
I had a super inspirational guest on my podcast a while back named Anthony Robles, who has one leg. He was born with one leg, and he became an All-American champion wrestler. And The Rock Dwayne Johnson is actually making a movie about his life now. But I love stories like that, you know, guys that are just continue to go no matter what. And that's awesome.
The truth, brother, if you think life only finishes when you rest your head on your grave. That's it. You have to, the whole time it's a fight. So fight for everything. Give your best. You sleep less. You know, eat less. Do without stopping. And you know, it's gonna be a great life. Doesn't matter how you are. Doesn't matter if you don't have both legs. If you lock me in a container for 20 years, cut my both legs, my both arms, and just feed me enough to survive. After 20 years, when we open that container, I'll be smiling. Yeah. You know, even if I'm shitting on myself, don't need to clean me. Leave me like that. Because with the memories that I already have, and the life and the imagination that I have and the beauty that I see on everything, I don't see how I'm not going to be smiling for the rest of my life. You know, that's the truth.
Man, that's awesome. Man, your story is so incredible. I can't believe that we've had such a great conversation. Like it's I was so excited to talk to you, and it's been more than I expected.
Thank you. That helps with the 3 hours actually that you let me sleep.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'm so sorry for that. But I'm gonna leave you with something a little off the wall. So just because you're such a master in BJJ, and I want to know if I broke a rule here. So when I was in the UFC, my third and fourth fight, Steve Vigneault and Joe Riggs, I got a guillotine choke, and jokingly I call it a Swickotine, which is just stuck for my whole career. Everyone's saying Swickotine, but I called it a Swickotine. And you would be surprised at how many BJJ guys sent me messages, and they were so mad at me for calling it a Swickotine, even though I was just joking. Did I break a rule with BJJ? Like, can you not change the name of moves?
No.
I'm just
so
wondering.
A lot of times you have to understand. Let me tell you one thing. You know Darcy Choke, right?
Right.
Darcy Choke.
I got caught in one, and I lost a UFC fight, by the way, to Thiago Silva with the Darcy Choke, by the way. That's a sensitive subject.
Oh, it's a beautiful move. Unbelievable. We made that move at the academy. You know, we were working on it. It was a variation from the regular Armenian guillotine that I developed back then on the Pride 1 and Pride 2. That's what I used. And I remember Joe Darcy was a kid that came train with us. He was 16 years old. Very talented kid. Today he's a police officer in Long Island. He has a school in Long Island.
Oh, wow.
And I showed him the move. Oh, I taught him the move. He became very good at it. Then he went to train with a very famous fighter, and he finished the guy many times with that. So then they named it the Darcy Choke. He showed them how it was, and they named it Darcy Choke. So then the move became very famous and very known. So Darcy one day comes to me and goes, Renzo, I feel bad. I say, what? He goes, they named the move after me when actually you taught me the move. You made it. I remember when you were making this move, and you taught me, and they name after me. I say, my brother, the good teacher, the real good teacher, he don't have students. He has leaders that he trains them. And he has a real good jiu-jitsu student will have moves named after his students. So I'm very happy. It's actually your name, not mine. I'm very happy.
That's so cool.
You just fulfill my dream as a good teacher. You're just showing that I'm a good teacher.
Yeah.
So the reality, some people are gonna get offended with anything.
I was just hoping my joke didn't come across as like disrespectful to the BJJ community, because it was just a joke.
Never, brother. It's like I always joke with Khabib. Yeah. Remember the first time he fought, he had a shirt. If it was Zizi, if Sambo was Zizi, I would call it Jiu-Jitsu.
I remember that.
So the first time I met him, I said, if Jiu-Jitsu was Zizi, I would call it Sambo. So we start laughing, And I say, I'm going to make that shirt for you to wear it next. Yeah. And we start laughing. Hey, so you never forgot. I said, that was brilliant. I said to him, that was a beautiful shirt. I wish I had one.
Yeah, I remember that shirt, actually.
So normally, what happens a lot is people who don't do, people who don't put their hearts out, they want to create rules to limit you. Well, my brother, you can call my Armenian guillotine that I love my whole life. You can call your name and I'll be happy. Yeah. I would love to see you use it and do it. That's the reality. But people who don't do, they want to criticize everybody. And today with the internet, everybody has a voice. So it's, you'll be amazed the number. I was called a Nazi. I was called a Nazi, even though I don't know if you saw recently, there is a peace treaty between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. They just had the first flight this week.
I didn't know that.
They just had the first flight. Now the company has a base in Abu Dhabi.
Oh wow!
The Israeli company has a base in Abu Dhabi. It was unheard of for years. Now it's the first time. And I was part of this on the past 20 years together with Sheikh Tahnoum. I could watch. I was sitting on meetings with them and seeing how he made it. And I remember 22 years ago, like he's talking about money, and he's a very rich guy. And I say, man, you don't need money. What you need is to write history. And he looked at me and say, you are here not to make money, to make a better business deal. You already have the money. You have to create good history to leave for your kids, for your grandkids, for future generations to learn from you, to talk about you. And now he called me and goes, Renzo, here, history. The peace treaty between both countries, and they are working. A lot of the Israelis are moving out of the Palestinian areas and returning their land, and everything was organized and done by him. It's and again, I believe Jiu-Jitsu changed him. He's a black belt. He's one of my black belts, an amazing soul. Look what he has done for Jiu-Jitsu, for the sport, for fighting. He helped, people don't know, he owned 10% of the UFC. He helped UFC a lot. Only I know how much, and we have what we have in the UFC today, thanks to him too, because UFC was going through some hard moments and he made a huge difference, and now he's doing exactly what I told him, teaching Jiu-Jitsu to him 22 years ago. History, go change history. make good things, live good things, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope, and I always tell him, I hope you come to my funeral and I don't have to go in yours, because one of those two are going to miss the other.
Yeah.
So I hope you come to mine. I said to him.
God, so much influence from you, man. It's incredible. It's so incredible.
Yeah. And it's a funny thing, because I keep remembering little things that I forgot. There was another reporter that used to do a job like you're doing now, very famous one. He called me too and said he was going through a hard moment, or a hard time in his life, you know, and he called me saying that he was killing himself that day. I was on my way to the city to go train, you know, to go teach and train. I said, give me 5 minutes, I'm calling you back. Boom, I hang up, call the academy and say, there's someone there to teach. I can't teach right now. They said, no problem, we got somebody here. I think John was taught the class, John Donna. So I call him back and I say, my man, before you go, let's have a beer. Enjoy at least one last beer, and then you can kill yourself later tonight. I went to meet him. He even had what he was going to take.
Wow.
He already had in his pocket. Yeah.
Oh,
I get there. In the end, one beer turned into 10 beers. In the end, we look in our jiu-jitsu position, laughing, joking. I help him with a few things that he needs to fix. I help him with that. Motherfucker still alive today, calling me all the time, calling me and telling me jokes and telling me things. You know, it's an amazing soul. Was a very famous reporter from our MMA scene, you know. And today he's running. He's happy with his family. Everything is good, and he's alive and well. He called me actually this week to bother me a little bit, you know.
Well, I got your number.
To tell him that everything's fine.
I got your number, so if I get depressed, you're going to be the person I call 100%.
Call me, and I'll be there. 100%. I'll be there in a heartbeat. We go break a bar, get drunk, you know, make fun of others, and
sure.
And laugh. But it's a funny situation, you know, and it's amazing to have changed lives like this.
It's incredible. This is unbelievable. All these stories, it's so crazy. And since you mentioned Khabib and that fight coming up with Justin Gaethje and Khabib, what do you think about that? What's your breakdown from your perspective on that fight, the big super fight with Khabib and Gaethje?
It's going to be a very interesting fight. Khabib is a grinder, man. I never seen nobody train like he does. He trains a lot. He's a very he's a very strong religious Muslim. You know, he doesn't drink. He prays every day on time. He follows everything by the book. You know, he's a very good heart guy, and he loves fighting, and he trains. And it's going to be a tough match for Gaethje. You know, Gaethje has to be careful, because if you let Khabib put your hands on you, he grinds you until you're exhausted. You know. You can't go to Khabib like he normally Gaethje does every single time with everything he has on the beginning, because Khabib has an amazing ability to grind his way to victory, you know, and it's very difficult to resist his imposing game.
I've always said Gaethje is probably one of the toughest guys, because when you look at a guy like Khabib, like, you think the only way that you can beat a guy like that is knock him out, land that one punch. Do you think that there's a BJJ guy that could possibly neutralize him, like, from what you've seen?
It's very tough. In an MMA fight, Khabib that's why he's the champion. It's extremely tough to beat him. It's not easy. He trains a lot of jiu-jitsu too. Like, he trains every day jiu-jitsu a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, I had opportunity to train him here when his fight was in Brooklyn, so he stayed with us. You know, and he was actually coming here to stay with me for his last fight that got canceled. I think. You know, and amazing soul, very dedicated athlete. With him, there's no BS, there's no bullshit. He goes and he trains hard every time. He carries his whole crew with him all the time. Yep. He has constantly 6-7 guys that are his training partners, you know, all fighters, all very tough fighters. You know, it's an amazing, amazing soul, man. Amazing soul and amazing fighter, very dedicated in doing what he does, you know. He recently lost his father. There was an amazing coach, amazing father too. You know, I had the chance to meet him in Moscow and some other places, and you know, unfortunately, he died. I think he contracted COVID, and he had a heart problem that ended up costing his life. But, you know, he left a huge amount of heart and passion to Khabib do what he does best. You know, and I think he motivated Khabib, and he drove Khabib to be the champion that he is. And
like Javier says, I mean, he thinks that's going to make him a stronger fighter, just to fulfill his father's legacy. That was his main thing, you know. But
definitely, that's for sure.
Man, Renzo, thank you so much. This has been an amazing podcast, and I appreciate you being patient with me for getting the times wrong.
It's perfect time. It's always perfect time.
You're such an awesome person.
And as soon as I have a chance, I come to visit you. I want to see your school, and I want to teach a class there. It'll be a pleasure.
Have you been to Thailand before?
Yes, I've been there.
But you haven't been to AK Thailand yet. See, that's the thing.
No, not yet.
We got to get you to AK Thailand, and I got to show you the islands.
That'll be a pleasure, pa.
Okay, well, just let me know when you're ready to come, and I got you 100%.
We on, brother. We on.
Thank you so much, Renzo. Such a great conversation.
Thank you, Swick. And I love your Swick guillotine. I love it. Keep doing.
Much love. Thank you so much, Renzo.
Thank you, brother. All the best.
All right, Renzo Gracie, Master Renzo Gracie. Wow. That was incredible. That was way more than I expected, and I had a very high expectation for this podcast. He is, as you can tell, obviously one of the most positive people you'll ever talk to, one of the most influential people, and I didn't even know any almost of the stories that he told me on this podcast. So I'm assuming that you haven't either. So I guess that you guys are going to take a lot from this as well. Just a great guy, and I knew this, and like I said, I've ran into him, and we've hung out briefly over the years, and he's always been such a nice, positive person, and so I've always had that vibe, and I've never even really got to know him that well. So that shows you how strong that positive energy is, that I can take that from him in such a short amount of time, and just bumping into him here and there, and having small encounters. And then obviously through this podcast, I mean, come on, like you can't deny it. And the fact that he's fighting again, he is a true fighter to the core. And it is incredible that he flew to Brazil to fight Wallid Ismail. That is incredible. And nobody knows. It's not like he did it as a publicity stunt. Of course, he would have posted the video. But wow, that's incredible. But anyway, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We love watching the comments, reading the comments, hearing your guys' opinion. I love the support. Thank you so much. You guys have been the reason that we've kept this going, and we're doing as many podcasts as we are. We love the fact that you're enjoying these and you're taking from it. And if you're on the audio platforms, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, you can subscribe to us there. Leave us reviews. We greatly appreciate the support, and we will see you next time.